Okay, I've made you wait long enough. It is time for Code Blue. You're listening to WUSB Stony Brook. Take it away, guys.
The squirrels are outside lying there on the ground. They ate the colored candy there on the ground. But the sky's full gold. It's easier from outside, I am told. Nobody ever makes you come back in. Ooh, from the inside. Ooh, from the inside.
Are you the founder, the leader, the president of Code Blue, George Barry? What is the deal with this name of this band,
Well,
George?
George A. Barry here speaking. It's a very messy democracy, maybe like one you know well. It's a very messy democracy. I started it and very quickly realized I was over my head, and I enlisted Nick Oliver, who I'd met at college, to help me with some keyboards and some vocals. The next thing I knew, we had this collaboration.
And the name Code Blue, it sounds like an EMT code or something. What does it mean?
Yeah, well, we were both working in hospitals at the time.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so.
So I was pushing wheelchairs.
What's a Code Blue?
It's when somebody's heart stops.
That's fantastic. So your heart will stop when you listen to this album, guys.
We're hoping. In a good way.
So this is something you guys are doing when you were still in college? Is this like the first time it's been released?
Yeah, we met at college. He sat in front of me at a course at State University Stony Brook. And
I've heard of that place.
I had some songs I'd recorded, and I said, hey, what do you think of this? Because we were waiting for a teacher to show up. He immediately had ideas, and the collaboration started right then and there.
So have you gone into the studio and produced these recently, or are these tracks that you had already recorded and you worked on later?
Well, it's funny. Most of these were from the past, but we did revisit a few of them lately, and they have been remixed. So they've certainly all been remastered, and some of them have actually been embellished a little bit. This is more of a compilation of past ideas more than anything else, but unreleased ideas. Just the same.
And back in the day when you guys were making these, were you playing these out and about, or were you just recording these?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we played out all the time. Code Blue. If you guys want to do a search, Google it. You'll find us at Bandcamp, for example. We play these all over the place. We got really good reviews, but we were never able in our time of playing live to get the label interest we had hoped for. And that's really down to timing. People listening who are musicians or who know the music business know that in the time that we were most active playing these songs live was from 1991 till 1999. And when Napster showed up around 96, it really leveled the entire music industry. So we were trying to get signed to an industry that was simultaneously dumping all of their artists. So we never found a record label to get behind us and give us the big push. But, we spent about 10 years recording these songs, and we loved the process, and we loved playing for the people that we played for. And we found friends and homes and all kinds of good things along the way. And we knew that was too important to just slip away. So about 2 years ago, I got the idea, hey, why don't we reconvene and, come out with some new material, come out with the best material, put it all in one place and offer it. And that's what this is. This is called That Train Has Sailed, which is the compilation, Code Blue, 1990 to 1999. Yeah, That Train Has Sailed.
Yeah, the artwork that pops up when I was playing it on my phone is train tracks underwater.
Yeah. That started out as a faux pas by me because we were talking about resurrecting the recordings and remastering them and putting it out on CD. And we were discussing the band, and I think I had mentioned, I said, well, George, that train has sailed. And he left. He immediately went into hysterics.
Yeah.
He said, that's it.
That's it.
the title.
That's it. You know, there's a lot of good music that gets made that people don't necessarily find in its time. And I thought that the songs here were worthwhile. And I'd always been told the same thing by music critics like John Glenn here on Long Island, who's been around for decades. He's heard everybody. And he really liked what we had to offer. And now we've come up with the best of and the rest of. And who knows? There might be new Code Blue material coming out soon.
Before I go to Mary Beth, I do want to mention that we played you into From the Inside. Talk a little bit about that track and what's happening, because I really, really like that track. It's something you sent me early, and I have been giving it airplay here and there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I like about it. I like the guitar stuff in there. But From the Inside, what's happening there besides what I just talked about?
From the Inside, what caused that to occur was everybody at the house that night was watching Reservoir Dogs. And the torture scene started, and I couldn't tolerate it. I'm not good for watching violence. So I left the room, and I was kind of disgusted. And I sat down, and I started playing these chords. And I was reflecting on something came to me, which was somebody I knew very, very well, who had spent time in an asylum. I had the chords, and then all of a sudden the lyrics were coming to me for the song From the Inside. And I wrote that song about his actual experiences. Which he's never quite completely recovered from. But when you hear the lines, the squirrels are outside lying there on the ground. They ate the colored candies that they found. That's because back then, they would force the pills down the throats of the inmates back then, years ago. And then what the inmates learned to do is they learned to spit them out through the windows. And the squirrels would find the drugs on the ground. They would take them and they'd trip. So he spent a couple of years looking out the window, watching squirrels just on the ground, tripping out and seizing and stuff like this. And it was part of his daily experience. And I wrote From the Inside from his perspective.
This is like an amazing story. I actually thought when I heard the line, specifically about the squirrels, because we've had squirrel issues at WUSB. Whereas the students would let squirrels in the window at the old studio, and they would live in the ceiling tiles.
I believe it.
I had. There was a Bill McNulty show. Bill McNulty is the guy who does the political show. You listen to me. I think you listen to Bill sometimes.
I love Bill. He's great.
Bill is awesome. Well, Bill, when I was still working, I would listen to him, driving between schools. And one time a squirrel arrived during his show, and Bill, being the consummate broadcaster that he is, stayed on mic, said, "Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen," and he gets up to chase the squirrel with the mic on, and you hear Bill like battling with this squirrel. Get out of here, bam, boom, bam. But this is going back further. That's an amazing story. So
it's true. It's absolutely true. And I interviewed several people that had intimate knowledge of what was going on there in Central Islip, and that was Central Islip up until not that long ago. Into the 80s. Last I knew, they still even had a snake pit down there, although it's boarded up. But the thing was to relate his experiences and tell his story. I tried to write every song very different, and that one, that was his experiences.
Wow. All right, well, Mary Beth has been waiting patiently. Jump right in, Mary Beth.
So hi, guys. How you doing?
Doing great.
Good, thank you.
So the other day, Phil's like, hey, we're going to have George on. You want to come talk to him? And I was like, of course, yes, I love George. I know his sound. And then I listened to this. Where has this been? This is so awesome. This was like you've evolved and like just leaped and bound forward, and I am here for it. This was an awesome sound. So you've kept your awesome little 60s riffs that I love, but am I hearing 80s? Like it sounds like the 80s to me, and I love it. Let's talk about a couple of these tracks. Wait, hang on. First, I got to talk about Parisian. the Parisian Witchcraft? Because all of a
Yes.
sudden, boom in the middle.
Yes.
You've thrown in a waltz. What's happening
Right.
with that track?
Well, I try to write, from all different perspectives and all different styles. I mean, me and Nick are writers. We're composers at heart. And this one is autobiographical. I dated a French woman for a while, and all I got out of it was a T-shirt, and she broke my heart. And in the end, I realized what kind of person she was. And I wrote the song Parisian Witchcraft about that. We all practice what we need.
Why the
Wow.
waltz, though?
Well, for me, writing in that thing, it suggested Edith Piaf and a lot of this French pop music that had accordions on it and this very specific feel. Nick had to learn how to play accordion for that. And he did a great job, right?
Oh
I
my
think
god,
I
that's
could play for a
amazing.
day, but I've forgotten since. So, yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that. That's amazing. Guys, am I wrong? Am I hearing 80s? Am I kind of hearing kind of a Tears for Fears kind of thing happening on a couple of these tracks? Or are my ears deceiving me? What do you think?
Oh, I think you nailed it. I mean, there's 60s influences in Code Blue, New York material. There's 80s influences, and then there's other stuff. It might be progressive. It might be Edith Piaf. We've never limited ourselves to where we're going to draw influences from. We always serve the song. And that's what good composers, I think, should always do. And we're actually working on some new material now. You never know where it's going to come from. I always feel composers, we're just assisting in birthing material. Like it comes across from another world. We're just conduits. What's going to come across? I couldn't tell you. But it always is there. Just have to tune into your antennas. Yeah, and we resonate, with 60s, 80s, and more current things as well. We don't limit ourselves, and I'm glad we live in this time where media it's kind of an even playing field. Old stuff, new stuff, every kind of stuff simultaneously. It's all good.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And so is this album. This sound is amazing. I love it.
Now, credit where credit's due. You can thank Nick because Nick interned at Power Station Studios. He was also a very useful at Pi Studios. And these are places where, Jimmy Page had recorded AC/DC, Aerosmith, on and on and on. So he always had a big hand in saying, that take is not good enough, or let's get the microphones right for this. Because
When I first was juggling these 12, 13, 14 songs, I said, these are not going to mesh well. They each had their own unique personality and sound, and I somehow had to make it work, and we had to make the order work. And I'm overall pretty happy with the order. I think we've gotten used to it. There are some epic songs that have to go one to the next, and it wasn't an easy task.
I want to cut to a specific song. I want to talk about the song Devastation Boulevard. The story behind that's pretty cool because we had labored for about 10 straight years in the Long Island original scene, and I can tell you it's a bludgeoning, difficult scene to get ahead in. We worked so hard, and after 10 years, we were completely exhausted. And I had taken a job out of state. I was moving in 1999. And I had started recording Devastation Boulevard with Nick at Nick's recording studio at that time, which was called Hyperactive. And my ticket to get on the jet was such that I did my guitar parts, I did a few other things, a vocal, and I had to leave.
Wow.
And several years later, I came back visiting New York, and Nick said, I got something to play for you. And he had put all the other parts in. And that song is called Devastation Boulevard. It's never been heard before. It's never been released before. It's on this compilation.
And that was one of the last cuts.
It was the last thing.
Appear on that CD. Yeah, it would have been the last thing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
To me it's one of the reasons why it's on here is because to me it punctuates the end of the beginning. It really does, and it's also a post-apocalyptic song. There's so many things here that just kind of fall into place. It speaks of where we wound up after working so hard for 10 years, but it's also a creative apex because it takes a long time to get to a certain place creatively. If you work with somebody for as long as me and Nick worked together making original music and playing live, you get to a place you just can't get any other way. You grow together. And I think that's the culmination of it.
If you notice, that that song descends into chaos at the end. It's got to be faded out because it gets ridiculous. I mean, listen closely, you'll hear it.
And we're going to get ridiculous right now and play Devastation Boulevard for you, George Barry, Nick, Code Blue on WUSB. Guys, is this a world premiere?
It is. Never, ever heard before, never, ever released before. You are the first people to hear it.
Only on Captain Phil's Planet, WUSB Sony Book. This is Devastation Boulevard.
It was so different than it is now. It was beautiful. And over here, kids used to play, lots of kids everywhere. It was so green. It was so beautiful. And green. It was so green.
It's a perfect picture of a screwed up world full of fallen idols and shook up girls. Well, there's no sense fixing what's been laid to waste. It's the world we made. Downsize, capsize, shove in your face, and you'll learn to fit in. Here where it's always hard. Welcome to what you hate. Devastation Boulevard.
And we're back. And that was Devastation Boulevard with Code Blue. I think I spoke a little bit about this track with you, George, the other day on the phone, and I mentioned Roger Zelazny's Damnation Alley. I think you had mentioned like how many apocalyptic road titles were there, and I said, well, there's Damnation Alley.
Yeah.
Which was the
Yeah.
movie? Which was the movie 20th Century Fox backed financially instead of Star Wars back in the day, right, Mary Beth?
Yes.
Well, that sounded like a smashing success. Didn't
Yes.
It? Yeah.
Well, it did have J. Michael Vincent and a motorcycle in it, and giant
Yeah.
scorpions.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Where was John Saxon at the time of the filming?
Where was he? Yeah, where was he?
You can't have a D grade movie without John Saxon being in
Was
it.
John Saxon actually in it? No, it was the other guy who was in it. Oh, I forgot his name. But yeah, fantastic track and post-apocalyptic.
Yeah. Well, I have an environmental bent about me, so I've always been, somebody very close to nature. I enjoy when I'm not playing guitar really loud and really rocking out. Being in a quiet place and being with birds and nature and things like that. So seeing the degradation of our environment has always meant a lot to me. And Devastation Boulevard is like metaphoric. It's a direct thing to the fact the environment's getting screwed, but it's also, it was at that time the end of the band. It was symbolic of the end of the band. And we needed to stop. We needed to do a hiatus. But that's over. We're collaborating again now, and who knows? Who knows?
Well, let's talk about it. What do you think? What could the future bring for Code Blue?
Well, I'm going to start walking out some of the Code Blue songs in my George A. Barry solo gigs, which are all available over at georgeabarry.net. You can see the entire calendar there. I'll start walking out some of those songs. Me and Nick are working in the studio, sharing ideas, contributing to each other's thing. And if it makes the cut, it goes out, I think. But we'll have to see. I mean, this is a partnership, so he's got to like it too.
The Code Blue album is available on bandcamp.com, correct, George?
Yes, you can download it. We're going to be offering the singles over at CODEBLUEny.bandcamp.com. You can download each single if you like, as well as through the Bandcamp, you can purchase the CDs if you have a CD player, and there'll be other media in time.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm so glad you're making hard copies. I'm really thrilled about that. Have they been produced? Are they ready to ship?
Yeah. I'd say so.
Awesome. So we go on georgebarry.net to grab the CDs or order them through Bandcamp. How do we get the CDs?
Your best bet, you can reach out to me through georgebarry.net. You can send me email. That's easy. And Bandcamp. We have the singles available as a download, and you can also drop an email there, and we'll get a hard copy to you. Really simple stuff. Really easy.
When I downloaded and played them from my phone, we did have that terrific underwater train track. Is that the album cover?
Yes.
That's great.
That was Nick's idea. After he said that goofed up expression, hey man, that train has sailed. Then we went looking for a picture of train tracks that demonstrated what he was talking about.
That train track really does exist. It is an old rail line in Lake Tahoe, out in California. So
It's
They had a flood or something like that.
Captain Nemo's Railroad. Yeah, man. Awesome.
Yeah.
Before we go back to Mary Beth, I would just want to backtrack to From the Inside for one more second. You happen to have a chorus of chirping birds in the middle of that song. What was the idea behind that? So is that is that just looking out the window?
That's the courtyard. That's specifically the courtyard. And there are alternate versions of the song where you can hear a page overhead.
Oh.
Where they're paging a doctor.
Oh.
And I try to be as visual as a lot of people in our thing who make music. We take it from a visual perspective. So if you listen to the songs, they're very visual.
Mm-hmm. To me, it's just a moment of serenity before the insanity kicks back in. That song kind of needs a break, and that's where it happens. Take a breath and go back in.
It's a really serious topic, but it's a really catchy tune, guys. It's kind of like all bundled together. What was the Stevie Wonder song, Living for the City? Everyone's singing along, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, what is this song about really? It's taking that really serious thing, and it's giving it to you like, not as serious as Strange Fruit, but really bringing the message out,
Phil, that's entertainment, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm sorry to go dark on you there.
If I could say one more thing about From the Inside, the interesting thing about that song is it's one of the few songs on the CD that we tracked freeform. George literally played that on acoustic guitar from front to end, and we built all the instrumentation around it. It wasn't done to a click track. If you notice, the tempo varies, and that's what kind of makes it interesting. It actually breathes that way.
Can you do it live? Will you be able to do it live?
Hell yeah. We love playing that one live. On here, speaking about breathing and stuff like that, Nick wrote a song called Control. And Control, we labored over for a while to get it just perfect. And if you listen to Control, we always thought, after spending so much time on it, that the electronics was doing spooky things. It's a spooky song, Control. And if you listen to it, it seems like at times you're hearing voices that aren't ours that show up on Control. We noticed this during playback. We had delay lines running, and sometimes you think, okay, well, that's just the echo of Nick's voice on it. But then other times, I don't know. It's a deep cut, Control.
Do you have a haunted track? Is that what you're telling us?
I don't know. Listen to it.
Well,
check it out.
The track is single-handedly responsible for bringing down his tape track machine. We had to start over on a new medium completely because it broke in the middle. So
yeah, it killed my reel-to-reel. We had this 8-track reel-to-reel, and we were bouncing tracks back and forth, and it was like 95 degrees in my apartment, and it gave up the ghost. Reconvened the entire song on a completely new medium, digital tape, on DA88s. And it was even better the second time. And when we got towards the end is when we started to notice some of that spooky stuff. Nick, do you want to tell them what the song's about?
Well, the title kind of says it all. It's about, someone that can't let go of a concept of controlling somebody. It's about micromanaging another person's life. I mean, it's another heavy subject. It's funny. People have gravitated toward that one in particular, just like From the Inside. neither one's pleasant to talk about, but people like the ideas. So,
by the way, if you listen to Control at the end, it finishes up with these amazing piano, these synth chords that Nick is playing, and I'm playing guitar against it. And if it sounds a little bit like Jeff Beck, that's completely intentional. The feel Jeff Beck got on a song called "'Cause We've Ended as Lovers." And I thought that was perfectly appropriate for this song, Control.
We're talking with George and Nick of Code Blue on WUSB Stony Brook. The album is Code Blue. George, how do we find it on Bandcamp again?
You can go to CODEBLUEny.bandcamp.com.
That's it. So because there's a lot of Code Blues on Bandcamp. CODEBLUEny.bandcamp. Okay, so that's how you go. Go ahead, Mary Beth.
Your lyrics are heavy, but your sound draws you in. These sound so great, and they're going to sound amazing live. So tell me, George, it sounds like you're still going to be doing your solo gigs coming up here. Nick, will you be joining him? Will you be doing anything together? And Nick, do you have your own stuff? Are you doing any of your own shows, your own stuff to promote?
I have not been playing live for a while.
I think it's time to start again.
We are talking about, yeah. So I've always composed, though. We've both always composed and shared ideas, and we're looking toward, another resurrection of this band. We're not sure if, we're going to continue under that name or another name. We could be a band that keeps changing the names around as other bands have in the past,
I think a lot of it comes down to, will there be an audience for this compilation? Part of my reason for putting this out was to kind of be a test line and see if all that we'd cultivated in the past, whether there was some embers there that we could turn into a full-blown fire going forward. And if not, let's go out on a high note.
It's 2023. This is stuff that was worked on in the 90s. It's timeless, guys. It's very catchy. Yeah. I think it's got legs, honestly. The first track you sent me, from the Inside track, it just caught me right away. And listening to the whole album, I mean, I already have my own earworms. Mary Beth has her own, and we both came to this from different places, and we both said, yeah, this could move. So I think it would be great if you guys moved ahead. The name might be a problem. It might be hard for people to find you on Bandcamp, especially if that's going to be your initial point of distribution. But, I mean, you could change your names. I mean, George and Nick's Excellent Adventure rolls off the tongue,
Very catchy. Yeah.
What's another name? I mean, well, Boston is taken, right? But how about Port Jeff? It could be Port Jeff. Yeah.
If people want to send us suggested names, we're open to that. Just email us.
Hang on. The Stony Brooks. There you go. You're welcome.
we were thinking of calling it cold brew, but that would seem like we were promoting drinking a little too much. So,
oh, it's awesome. Go ahead, Mary Beth. You had a comment before.
I was going to ask
before I went
Sometimes.
ape.
The other song that jumped out at me was Sometimes, and I was going to ask about that. It was another one of these 80s funky industrial kind of sound to it. Just tell me about the inspiration for that one.
Wow, that goes back so far. That was one of the early tracks.
Oh, wow.
I don't really remember the inspiration of that. But, I can tell you, I might have gotten that idea from maybe in one of the Billy Joel songs at the time, because it has a rhythmic feel much like Allentown. And,
yes, absolutely.
The way it starts, and it's a piano-based song, so I could see the correlation there. There's nothing challenging in the lyrics. It's a song about life, it's a song about finding your way, and I think it was inspired definitely by our time in the 80s. We're children of the 80s, so it's hard to shake that.
I believe there's a picture of Nick and George from the 1980s on the Code Blue NY Bandcamp page. Is that right, guys?
90.
Up in the right-hand corner?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm wearing the snakeskin suit, if you see that. Yeah.
That was a picture of the live band. So that was a little bit later, but it was, it still goes back.
Yeah, that was 1997 when that picture was taken. We were playing in Franklin,
Square.
Franklin Cafe, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
CODEBLUEny.bandcamp.com to see the picture in question. And you too can enjoy it. Make it your wallpaper on your desktop. And yes, I do want to talk about, before we wrap it up, the track Let's Talk. I found that one quite interesting. I liked it, and I liked the little island or reggae sort of quote in the middle of it. So tell me the story about that, George.
There was this plethora of talk shows. Everybody had a talk show. It still goes on now. Everybody got a talk show, man. You know, you name them, every celeb's got a talk show. And I was sick of it. I was absolutely sick of it because I realized it was all talk and no action. Nobody wanted to fix anything. Nobody wanted to advance anything. All they wanted to do was sell something and talk. And so I wrote the song, Let's Talk, because talking is what we do so well. Let's talk and let the world go to hell. You know, that's from the chorus there. And that reggae section, I wanted to bring in some levity. And I think it was Nick's idea to go to like a reggae field in the middle. And I talk about just how absurd it is. This plethora of talk shows, it's just a waste of time. You could be doing things. That's what the song's about.
The little reggae section, the waltz, I don't want to call them Easter eggs because they're not Easter eggs. They're like little Cracker Jack prizes in these songs because the song is chugging along and it's doing things that you expect a song like this to do. And all of a sudden, we're in the islands. All of a sudden,
Nice little break.
it's a waltz.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, there's birds singing, you know. And I like that. That sort of breaks the mold. That this isn't your this isn't your what you would expect in a '90s sort of era recording. You know, and it's refreshing. So were those things added in the 90s or were they added when you guys were working on it now?
Oh, when they were originally written,
cool.
You know, those things were incorporated at the time. You know, I think we both have restless composer syndrome. You know, we go nuts on the middle eight.
Awesome.
River of Love. That's my earworm. Why is it in my head and I can't get it out now, George Barry? What have you done to me?
Well, ask Nick Oliver.
Nick Oliver, what have you done to me? It's stuck in my head.
I'm glad to hear
and
that.
I love it.
It's almost kind of, you mentioned Tears for Fears. That might be a song that might be a little inspired by Tears of Fears / the Beatles because it's got a retro sound to the way the chords progress. Lyrically, it just talks about, I have a few songs in that album that talk about wanting to bring someone back to reality. I've dated many girls that thought they deserved better than anyone else, and it just talks about bringing you down and back to the fact that love is the key. There's a line in there that says your friends think you turn water into wine, and I've met a few and dated a few women that I really think believe that.
Very cool. Well, I love it. I've listened to the tracks, the whole 14, twice now. I'll be listening again. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I really do.
This thing's got legs, guys.
Thank you.
I think
Thanks.
there's a lot of energy here. I think we can pick this up and run with it. Is there going to be a pure Code Blue show sometime in the future where it's 100% Code Blue, or you're just sneaking them in here and there?
I'm sneaking them in here and there on my solo work, and we'll see if the audience responds. If you guys want it, I think it'll happen. But it depends upon what people do, whether they go to CODEBLUEny.bandcamp.com. If they show an interest. I mean, we love doing it, but whether we're going to share it with the world, and put it on a stage and stuff, that's yet to be seen. I mean, I'm hopeful, but I'd like to see if people want it.
I find that our young DJs here at WUSB Stony Brook, the college kids who have their own shows, they're playing a lot of 90s stuff. They're playing a lot of like top 40 from the 90s. I always wondered why, and I'm not sure what the reason is. I'm thinking maybe it's because of streaming, or maybe because these are all Netflix and Hulu kids, who are hearing music from the show Lovecraft Country, or hearing, from, Stranger Things. That's where they're getting their music from. So that's the theory I have. I think this album could be for them as well.
I think the difference that people hear is craft. I mean, not to sound egotistical, but I mean, not just us, but a lot of the artists that were popular until 96 or so, were really big on craft. I mean, Stone Temple Pilots, whether you liked it or not, it was well constructed. Depeche Mode, whether you liked it or not, it was well constructed. And after, Napster and streaming decimated the music industry, people only have time to put a drum machine against a guy rapping.
Yeah.
And there's not as much craft in the majority of the artists that do that. There are some great artists that do that, but clearly not all of them. And craft is the difference.
Yeah. So I'm
think we
hearing
go for it.
layers. Yeah. I'm hearing layers, and it makes it such a full-rounded, full body experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was telling Mary Beth earlier, I like to sit down and play along with this. I think I would dig it. It would just be, just not anything I would want to do like live or anything. It's just something I would do for my own self. And I do that occasionally. I mean, but there's like a special thing where you want to join in.
Yeah.
Not just to be just here in the solitude of my own little planet. I don't want to. I'm not trying to like join the band or anything. It's just like this feels like it would be fun to play. That's the point I'm getting across.
I think that's fantastic. The highest compliment of somebody that writes songs is that somebody else would hear the song and want to play it. I grew up, I was 13, 14. I learned every Beatles song I could get my hands on.
Exactly.
Because I loved the songs. And the songs they're like vessels. Somebody else can pick it up, and if it's a good vessel, it'll take them from point A to point B. So you'll hear, Carole King do her version of a specific song, and then you'll hear somebody else, do that same song, but in a completely different way, like Norah Jones. And a good vessel will do that. And that's what attracts me to being a writer. And I think it's the same thing for Nick. You want to write that great song that anybody would want to sing and anybody would want to play and engage with.
Yes, it will work on accordion as well as harp. One way or another. Well, kind of like Yesterday from the Beatles. It works on everything,
except tuba, it turns out.
Tuba.
Any final comments for Code Blue? Mary Beth, has your heart stopped? Are you in Code Blue?
Yes, I am in Code Blue right now. No, this is so solid, and this album takes you places and carries you along, and yeah, this is fire. Fire, guys. Well done.
Lightning in a
Thank
bottle.
you so much.
Lightning in a bottle. Any final words, George and Nick?
Yeah, reach out to us, everybody, through CODEBLUEny.bandcamp.com.
Yeah.
We've been talking with George and Nick of Code Blue here on Captain Phil's Planet on WUSB Stony Brook. Stay tuned, because now we're going to play River of Love, Code Blue. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take refuge in the passion. Send out a chain reaction. Shout out a revelation. Break down and let it go. What will it take for you to get inside your mind?